so it could be skimmed off the surface. Issa 1. 25. Mal 3. 2. The refiner sat in front of his furnace and supplied the charcoal fire with a forced draft by means of bellows. Just 6. 29. Mal 3. 3. Gold frequently has silver with it in varying amounts. How these were separated in Bible times is not known, but a distinction in the methods of treating the two seems to be noted in Proverbs 17. 3 and 27. 21. The refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold. Nitric acid was evidently not discovered until the 9th century CE, so previously gold was purified by other means. For example, if lead was present with the gold, the impurities could be fluxed off as a slag, while the gold would be held by the lead. Then by slowly boiling off the lead, an operation known as cupelling, pure gold would remain behind. This process requires considerable skill, for if the temperature is too high or the boiling off too rapid, the gold is carried away with the lead. The operator learns to judge and control the refining by the color of the molten metal. Compare PS 12. 6. Just 6. 28-30. S22. 18-22. The use of lye in the refining of silver is alluded to in the scriptures. Mal 3. 2, 3. If the copper-bearing ore was an oxide or a carbonate, mixing the crushed ore with charcoal and burning it freed the copper in the metallic state. However, if the copper ore was a sulfide, preliminary roasting was necessary first to burn off the sulfur as sulfur dioxide and at the same time convert the copper sulfide to copper oxide. Then it could be reduced with charcoal to obtain the free metal. Extraction of iron was more difficult, because of the tremendous heat required. Iron melts at 1535 degrees C, 2795 degrees F. The ancients, however, built smelting furnaces equipped with bellows to give a forced draft similar to present-day blast furnaces. De 4. 20. Just 6. 29. S22. 20-22. There are no details as to Hebrew iron furnaces, but they may have been similar to those known to have existed in ancient India. Made of clay, pear-shaped, about 1.2 meters, 4 feet in diameter at the bottom, narrowing to 0.3 meters 1 foot at the top, they had goatskin bellows equipped with nozzles attached to clay tubes that supplied air to the bottom of the furnace. Charged with charcoal, the fire was started and the ore was added. Another layer of charcoal was then added on top, and the forced heat was continued for 3 or 4 hours. With the rung completed, the front of the furnace was broken down to remove the bloom of metal. It is a simple matter to win lead from its common ore, galena, that is, lead sulfide. First the ore is roasted with an injection of air to convert the lead sulfide to lead oxide. The sulfur combines with oxygen and forms the gas sulfur dioxide. The lead oxide is then mixed with charcoal and charged into a blast furnace. Then the carbon dioxide is driven off, leaving the liquid lead behind in the crucible. Figurative use. Jehovah himself is referred to as a refiner. His word is highly refined. 2 22. 31. PS 18. 30. 119. 140. PR 30. 5. This tried and tested word is one means by which God purifies his people in removing all sinful dross of uncleanness. PS 17. 3. 26. 2. 105. 19. Dar 12. 9, 10. Mal 3. 3 fiery trials also refined the faithful. O texto e acute miritra longo, registration 765 allowing the exodus from Egypt. To assist Moses in this undertaking, a chieftain was selected out of each tribe to take the responsibility and oversight of the registration in his tribe. Not only were all males listed who were 20 years old and upward eligible for service in the army, but the law also placed on the registered ones a hair tax of half a shekel $1. 10 for the service of the tabernacle. X 30. 11-16. New 1. 1-16, 18, 19. The total number listed amounted to 603,550, excluding the Levites, who would have no inheritance in the land. These paid no tabernacle tax and were not required to serve in the army. New 1. 44-47. 2. 32, 33. 18. 20, 24. The record in the Book of Numbers shows that account was also made of the number of firstborn males from the 12 tribes, and of all the Levite males, from a month old and upward. New 3. 14, 15. This was because Jehovah had bought the firstborn ones as his when he saved them from the destruction of the firstborn in Egypt. Now he desired to use the Levites as his specially sanctified ones for sanctuary service. The Levites were therefore to be given to Jehovah by Israel to redeem the firstborn of the other tribes. The count showed that there were 22,000 male Levites and 22,273 non-Levite firstborn. New 3. 11-13, 39-43. To redeem the 273 firstborn in excess of the Levites, a 5 shekel $11 payment to the sanctuary was required for each. New 3. 44-51. Also the Kohatites, Gershonites, and Merarites between 30 and 50 years of age were numbered. These were given special assignments of service at the sanctuary. New 4. 34-49. On the plains of Moab. A second recorded registration is the one taken on the plains of Moab, after the scourge because of Israel's sin in connection with Baal of Peor. It was found then that the number of men 20 years old and upward was 601,730, a decrease of 1,820 from the census taken nearly 39 years earlier. New 26. 1, 2, 51. The count of Levites from a month old and upward was 23,000, or 1,000 and more than the first census. New 26. 57, 62. David's calamitous registration. A registration taken toward the end of King David's reign is also recorded, one that brought calamity. The account at 2 Samuel 24. 1 reads, And again the anger of Jehovah came to be hot against Israel, when one incited David against them, saying, Go, take account of Israel and Judah. The one who did the inciting is not there identified. Was it some human counselor? Was it Satan? Or even God? 1 Chronicles 21. 1 helps to answer the question, saying, Satan proceeded to stand up against Israel and to incite David to number Israel. That rendering in the New World Translation agrees with the Hebrew text and with translations into Greek, Syriac, and Latin. It is also consistent with the renderings in other translations. At NERS, JB, Mo. However, as the footnote at 1 Chronicles 21. 1 points out, the Hebrew word samiddle.tan can also be rendered a resistor. Byington translates it as Satan. Young's translation reads, an adversary. So it is possible that the one moving David to decide on the calamitous course was a bad human counselor. Interestingly, a footnote at 2 Samuel 24. 1 shows that this text could be rendered. And again the anger of Jehovah came to be hot against Israel, when he incited David against them. A translation in the Bible in Basic English reads, Again the wrath of the Lord was burning against Israel, and moving David against them, he said, Go, take the number of Israel and Judah. Hence, some commentators consider that the one or he who incited David to take the census was Jehovah. His anger against Israel, according to this view, predated the census and was due to their recent rebellions against Jehovah and his appointed king, David, when they followed first ambitious Absalom and then the good-for-nothing Sheba, the son of Bichri, in opposition to David. 2 Sa 15. 10-12. 20. 1, 2 Such o textoi acute miritra longo, registration 766, because the king's word had been detestable to Joab Levi not being counted, in accord with the law at Numbers 1. 47-49. Joab either stopped before registering Benjamin or delayed the progress of the registration, and David came to his senses and called a halt to it before Joab had completed it. 1 Ch 21. 6 Joab may have avoided Benjamin, because he did not want to stir up this tribe that was the tribe of Saul, which had fought David's army under Joab before uniting with the other tribes under David. 2 Sa 2. 12-17 No doubt, because the making of the count was wrong, it was not entered into the account of the affairs of the days of King David. 1ch 27. 24. The count revealed that Israel had 1,100,000 men, and Judah had 470,000, according to the record at 1 Chronicles 21. 5. The report at 2 Samuel 24. 9 says 800,000 men of Israel, and 500,000 men of Judah. Some believe that a scribal error exists. But it is unwise to ascribe error to the record when the circumstances, methods of counting, and so forth, are not fully understood. The two accounts may have reckoned the number from different viewpoints. For example, it is possible that members of the standing army and all their officers were counted or omitted. And different methods of reckoning may have caused a variation in the listing of certain men, as to whether they were under Judah or Israel. We find what may be such an instance at 1 Chronicles 27. Here 12 divisions in the king's service are listed, naming all the tribes except Gad and Asher, and naming Levi and the 2 half-tribes of Manasseh. This may have been because the men of Gad and Asher were combined under other heads at the time, or for other reasons not stated. Jehovah's judgment. Jehovah's prophet Gad was sent to David, giving David, the authorizer of the census, a choice of one of 3 forms of punishment. A famine for 3 years, the sword of Israel's enemies overtaking Israel for 3 months, or a pestilence for 3 days. David, leaning on God's mercy rather than man's, chose to fall into the hand of Jehovah. In the pestilence that followed, 70,000 persons died. 1ch 21. 10-14. Here another variation is found between the Samuel and Chronicles accounts. Whereas 2 Samuel 24. 13 says 7 years of famine, 1 Chronicles 21. 12 says 3. The Greek Septuagint reads 3 in the Samuel account. One prophet explanation is that the 7 years referred to at 2 Samuel would, in part, be an extension of the 3 years of famine that came because of the sin of Saul and his house against the Gibeonites. 2 Sa 21. 1, 2 The current year the registration took 9 months and 20 days 2 Sa 24. 8 would be the 4th, and 3 years to come would make 7. Although the difference may have been due to a copyist's error, it may be said again that a full knowledge of all the facts and circumstances should be his before one reaches such a conclusion. For the temple service. Sometime later David, who was now quite old, had all Levites numbered for future temple service, with Jehovah's apparent approval. This count revealed that there were 38,000 Levites 30 years of age and upward, all able-bodied men. They were listed as follows. 24,000 supervisors, 6,000 officers and judges, 4,000 gatekeepers, and 4,000 musicians. 1ch 23. 1-5. In connection with the building of the temple we read. Then Solomon took account of all the men that were alien residents, who were in the land of Israel, after the census that David his father had taken of them. And there came to be found 153,600. So he made 70,000 of them burden bearers, and 80,000 cutters in the mountain, and 3,600 overseers for keeping the people in service. 2ch 2. 17, 18. Later registrations. There were other registrations carried out by succeeding kings of Israel and Judah. In the days of King Amaziah the men in Otextoi acute Miritra Longo, Habom 767 edict of the emperor proved providential, for it compelled Joseph and Mary to journey from the city of Nazareth to Bethlehem in spite of the fact that Mary was then heavy with child. Thus Jesus was born in the city of David in fulfillment of prophecy. Lu 2. 4-7. Mic 5. 2. 2 registrations under Quirinius. Bible critics have said that the only census taken while Publius Sulpicius Quirinius was governor of Syria was about 6 CE, which event sparked a rebellion by Judas the Galilean and the Zealots. Act 5. 37 This was really the second registration under Quirinius, for inscriptions discovered at and near Antioch revealed that some years earlier Quirinius had served as the emperor's legate in Syria. The bearing of a recent discovery on the trustworthiness of the New Testament, by W. Ramsey, 1979, pages 285, 291 concerning this, the Dictionnaire du Nouveau Testament in Crampon's French Bible 1939 ed. p. 360 says. The scholarly researchers of Zompt comment at Epigraph 286-104. The Syria Romana Provincia, 97-98, and of Moms in res gesta divi Augusti place beyond doubt that Quirinius was twice governor of Syria. Many scholars locate the time of Quirinius' first governorship as somewhere between the years 4 and 1 BCE, probably from 3 to 2 BCE. Their method of arriving at these dates, however, is not solid, and the actual period of this governorship remains indefinite. See Quirinius. His second governorship, however, included 6 CE according to details reported by Josephus. Jewish Antiquities, 18, 26-1. So historian and Bible writer Luke was correct when he said concerning the registration at the time of Jesus' birth. This first registration took place when Quirinius was governor of Syria, distinguishing it from the second, which occurred later under the same Quirinius, and to which Gamaliel makes reference as reported by Luke at Acts 5:37. Regret. See repentance. Harbiri middle. By our Jehovah has wide and made spacious. Grandson of Moses, only son of Eleazar, and founder of a family of Levites that still existed when David was king. 1 Ch 23. 15, 17. 24. 21. 26. 25. Rehob Public Square. Broad Place. 1. Father of Hadadezer the king of Zobah against whom David warred victoriously. 2 Sate. 3-12. 2. One of the Levites or the forefather of one attesting by seal a covenant in the time of Nehemiah and Ezra. Ne 10. 1, 9, 11. 3. A place or city mentioned in the exploration of Canaan by the 12 Hebrew spies sent out by Moses. New 13. 21. It is probably the same place as Rehob and Beth-Rehob mentioned at 2 Samuel 10. 6, 8. See Beth-Rehob. 4. The name of at least one and perhaps 2 cities in the territory of Asher. Jos 19. 24, 28, 30. While some scholars consider both references to denote the same city, other related texts appear to indicate separate sites. Thus, Judges 1. 31, 32 says that Asher did not drive out the inhabitants of Rehob, so that the Asherites were obliged to dwell among the Canaanites of the land, whereas Joshua 21. 27, 31 and 1 Chronicles 6. 71, 75 state that Rehob was given to the sons of Gershom. Goshen as Elvite city. Those favoring but one side consider these texts to mean that the task of evicting the Canaanites from Rehob was hindered originally but was accomplished at a later time, thus allowing for its occupation by the Levites. Those favoring 2 sites suggest one town as remaining in Canaanite hands, the other as among those initially captured by Asher and given to the Levites. For the 2 sites, some suggest an identification with Kabad el-Amri, about 4 kilometers 2.5 mi of Akzib, for the Rehob of Joshua 19. 28. And for that of the other texts, they suggest Tel el-Gabi Tel Bira, about 10 kilometers 6 mi of Akko. This latter site is the one preferred by those who consider the name to refer to but one town. Hobomri middle. Bow and wide and make spacious the people. Son of Solomon by his Ammonite text to acute Miritra longo. Hoboth 768 his people. But Hobom spurned this mature advice and sought the counsel of young men with whom he had grown up. They told the king he should in effect make his little finger thicker than his father's hips, increasing their yoke burden and chastising them with scourges instead of whips. 1 Chi 12. 2-15. 2 Ch 10. 3-15. 13. 6, 7. This arrogant, high-handed attitude adopted by Hobom completely alienated the majority of the people. The only tribes continuing to support the house of David were Judah and Benjamin, while the priests and Levites of both kingdoms, as well as isolated individuals of the 10 tribes, also gave support. 1 Chi 12. 16, 17. 2 Ch 10. 16, 17. 11. 13, 14, 16. Subsequently, when King Hobom and Adoram Hadoram, who was over the conscripted forced laborers, entered the territory of the secessionists, Adoram was stoned to death, but the king managed to escape with his life. 1 Kai 12. 18. 2 Ch 10. 18 Hobom then mustered an army of 180,000 from among Judah and Benjamin, determined that the 10 tribes would be forcibly brought under his subjection. But Jehovah through the prophet Shemaiah forbade them to fight against their brothers, since God himself had decreed the division of the kingdom. Though open warfare on the battlefield was thus avoided, hostilities between the two factions continued all the days of Hobom. 1 Kai 12. 19-24. 15. 6. 2 Ch 10. 19. 11. 1-4. For a time Hobom walked quite closely to the laws of Jehovah, and early in his reign he built and fortified a number of cities, some of which he stocked with food supplies. 2 Ch 11. 5-12, 17 However, when his kingship was firmly established he abandoned Jehovah's worship and led Judah in the practice of detestable sex worship, perhaps because of Ammonite influence on his mother's side of the family. 1 Kai 14. 22-24. 2 Ch 12. 1 This, in turn, provoked Jehovah's anger, and in expression of it he raised up the king of Egypt, Shishak, who, together with his allies, overran the land and captured a number of cities in Judah in the 5th year of Hobom's reign. Had it not been that Hobom and his princes humbled themselves in repentance, not even Jerusalem would have escaped. As it was, the treasures of the temple and the king's house, including the gold shields that Solomon had made, were taken by Shishak as his booty. Hobom then replaced these shields with copper ones. 1 Kai 14. 25-28. 2 Ch 12. 2-12. During his lifetime Hobom married 18 wives, including Mahalath the granddaughter of David, and Maacah the granddaughter of David's son Absalom. Maacah was his favorite wife and the mother of Abijah, one of his 28 sons and the heir apparent to the throne. Other members of Hobom's family included 60 concubines and 60 daughters. 2 Ch 11. 18-22. Before his death at the age of 58, and the ascension of Abijah to the throne in 980 BCE, Hobom distributed many gifts among his other sons, presumably to prevent any revolt against Abijah after his death. 1 Kai 14. 31. 2 Ch 11. 23. 12. 16 On the whole, Hobom's life is best summed up in this commentary. He did what was bad, for he had not firmly established his heart to search for Jehovah. 2 Ch 12. 14. Hoboth 3 middle. Hoboth broad places. 1. The name that Isaac gave to a well he dug. GE 26. 22 Some scholars have tentatively identified Hoboth with Rehoboth Negev, about 35 kilometers 22 miles of Beersheba. The names bear certain similarities. In naming the well, Isaac said that now God had given ample room. He and his shepherds could be fruitful without interfering with, or getting interference from, others. 2. A city of unknown location from which came Shaul, an early Edomite king. GE 36. 31, 37. 1 Ch 1. 43, 48 In both references to it, the place is called Hoboth by the river.